province, ISWAP, for over 10 years, and the conflict has claimed the lives of more than 37,000 people and displaced more than 2 million since 2011, according to data from the Council on Foreign Relations. President Buhari established the Operation Safe Corridor in September 2015 to encourage willing and repentant Boko Haram members to surrender and go through a well-structured rehabilitation and de-radicalization and reintegration program. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum stated that since the death of their leader Abubakar Shekau in 2021, at least 40,000 Boko Haram fighters and their families have surrendered to authorities. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres reaffirmed the United Nations commitment to supporting Nigeria at the wreath-laying ceremony of the 23 victims that died in the bomb attack in the UN House in Abuja on August 26, 2011. He described the attack that led to the death of 23 UN employees and partners and injury to 60 others as tragic, while calling them heroes. Prior to his visit to Nigeria, Mr. Guterres had visited Senegal and Niger Republic, all in West Africa.
You're still watching Global Matters, and it's great to have you join us on the program today. My name is Today Alabi. On the show, as you heard from my colleague Ijoma, we're taking a look at the visit of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to Nigeria, and of course Nigeria's search for peace and security following repeated attacks by terrorists and bandits in Nigeria. Joining me from London to look at some of the issues that Ijoma has raised in that report, I have Priscilla Wipo. Priscilla is a broadcaster and a journalist based in London. She'll be joining me to take a look at some of these issues. She is a Nigerian but based in the United Kingdom. So I've got Sin Azu, who is a public affairs analyst, also based in London, another Nigerian, joining me to review the visit and the impact of some of these things on Nigeria, what these Guterres visit will mean for Nigeria. We'll come back after this short break. I will continue that program with my guests. Don't go away. The world has become more connected than ever before. Every continent, color, race, language, and religion, even government, move towards common goals. We now live in a global village. Here on this program, we'll bring you global issues to shape our world.
Government can do a lot with tax revenues collected for health and education.
The role of the European Union is to accompany a partner, that is Nigeria, in offering our lessons learned to see whether together we can improve that situation.
The emphasis on education, on vocational training, on the development of entrepreneurship is absolutely critical to its democracy.
The Nigerian government, we would ask them to follow up the investigations that we have had, the evidence that we have gathered, and ultimately we made a number of recommendations.
As we travel the world, we explore these issues of international and diplomatic relevance. Indeed, the global agenda that determine our national and common interests. With me, Tunde Alabi, live on AIT. The world has become more connected than ever before. Every continent, color, race, language, and religion, even government, move towards common goals. We now live in a global village. Here on this program, we'll bring you global issues to shape our world.
Government can do a lot with tax revenues collected for health and education.
The role of the European Union is to accompany a partner, that is Nigeria, in offering our lessons learned to see whether together we can improve that situation.
The emphasis on education, on vocational training, on the development of entrepreneurship is absolutely critical to its democracy.
The Nigerian government, we would ask them to follow up the investigations that we have had, the evidence that we have gathered, and ultimately we made a number of recommendations.
As we travel the world, we explore these issues of international and diplomatic relevance. Indeed, the global agenda that determine our national and common interests. With me, Tunde Alabi, live on AIT. All right, thank you for taking the time to join us on the program. And it's still global matters. Just the course of the week, the United Nations Secretary General visited Nigeria, and from the look of things, the president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, was surprised because in his own speech, he was thankful that the United Nations and indeed the world hasn't forgotten about Nigeria as a result of the war in Ukraine. We're taking a look at this visit. What does that visit mean for Nigeria? What is the implication of the UN visit to Nigeria? And of course, and how will it help the government's fight against terrorism and bandits in the country following promises of more funds to Nigeria to fight terrorism in the country? Joining me from the United Kingdom, specifically in London, to look at this issue are Nigerians based in that country and doing their trade in the country. I have Priscilla Whipple. Priscilla is a broadcaster and a journalist in London, joining me, and also Godson Asu, who is a public affairs analyst, also based in London. Let me start with you, Priscilla. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the program. It's good to see you again, Priscilla. Tell us, what do you make of Mr. Guterres' visit to Nigeria?
Thank you for having me today. I think it was great. It was nice to see the Secretary General in Nigeria, but it seemed his visit was solely focusing on the north, or just solely focusing on the issues to do with terrorism, and not so much the rest of the whole of Nigeria in totality. It seemed his focus was to visit the northeastern region, Maiduguri, and you know, to visit with the displaced people, and to have a conversation, it seemed, with the reformed Boko Haram members. That was quite an interesting to note that he chose to do that, or that was part of the plan. But I mean, it was good that, you know, he was in Nigeria. As to what the impact of this visit will mean, we are yet to see. There's also the issue of, you know, there was a discussion about funds that were to come from the UN to Nigeria. You know, all that is well and good, but I think the most important thing for every Nigerian is to see that these funds are being used to address the issues that really matter today, and that those are issues of terrorism, those are issues of, you know, for our displaced persons to be able to you know, have some kind of reform for their lives, for instance. So as much as, yes, it is good that he came, I think it's fair to say that the world has been quite busy in this last 2 years.
Oh, you've raised very important issues, how the Secretary General's visit was limited to Borno State, and how he spoke about reintegrating and rehabilitating ISWAP and former Boko Haram and ISWAP members into the country, as if that was all about Nigeria. That was a key issue. How will people from other parts of the country, such as people from Imo State, who have seen repeated attacks, people from the southwest, who have also been victims of banditry attack, how would they view this very limited visit to a particular section of the country? Key issue you have raised there. Priscilla.
Oh, apologies, you cut out for a moment there. I mean, as you said, let's not forget that his visit was just 2 days, and so, you know, it would be difficult to cover a lot of grounds in that time. But it would be perceived, regardless, as, you know, he's just come, as I've said, and visited just one part of the country and not the other part of the country. And in as much as we have issues with terrorism that are going on in Nigeria, there are so many other things that are going on, and having the Secretary General there, not to forget that even before we had the Secretary General, we had the Deputy Secretary General herself a Nigerian, who was in the country. I think she was there, you know, prior to the Secretary General's visit. And so it's important that to see that when the UN comes in, that if they're coming to Nigeria, that it's not just a matter of, yes, we have issues with Boko Haram and terrorism. Yes, it is a huge problem, but there is so much more that's going on in the country that I think, and the UN are equally, they have various aspects of the organization that addresses so many different issues in different countries. And so it would have been good to see the Secretary General be able to appear to address those issues. But then, they would say the most pertinent issue at the moment is the issue of terrorism, especially given the war that's going on at the moment, in Ukraine and so on. And so they would say, he didn't have a lot of time. And so he used this time to look at the most pertinent issue. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that the world forgot Nigeria as such. I don't think that Nigeria can be forgotten by the world. As much as we do not often acknowledge it, we play a huge role in so many different aspects on the planet here, and so we're not so easily forgotten.
Indeed, we're not so easily forgotten. Gossin, let me come back to you. What do you make of the visit in your own assessment?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Tunde, for having me this afternoon on this program. It's my humble pleasure joining you in this discussion. Obviously, I want to say that the visit of Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN to Nigeria, is a little bit overshadowed by those who initially think that his visit will be a politically agenda. And obviously, I would say that the entire UN team in Nigeria kind of protected the visit of the Secretary General to Nigeria on a one-sided view of the entire insecurity and poverty-related and unguided misrule and lawlessness in Nigeria. For him to have come to Nigeria with only one particular mindset of visiting Borno State and overseeing the challenges of the impact of Boko Haram and the role the UN has played to rehabilitate misplaced people in the state of Boko Haram is absolutely an unacceptable projection, in the sense that the problem of insecurity in Nigeria is gone beyond Boko Haram, gone beyond Borno State. And I feel the UN Secretary General should have had an overview of the entire colossal insecurity situation in Nigeria, in the sense that looking at the statistics of people or victims of terrorism in Nigeria, more people have died out of insecurity, terrorism, banditry, whatever you call it, in the entire northwest states of Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, than have died in the entire state of Borno State. And he should have taken time to go to one of those states rather than going to one particular state. I know, and we all know, that one of the roles of the Secretary General of the UN is to monitor, evaluate the role and impact of the UN country missions in every country in the areas of resolving internal conflicts and mediating in every peace. And if the cost comes, send a peace mission to such countries to resolve, to take the final process of resolving those issues. But then, if the Secretary General should come to Nigeria at the point when we are about to enter a political and electoral period or era in the country, and only had one goal in his mind, to visit Borno State and to evaluate and assess UN role in Nigeria only by what he saw in Borno State and what he observed in Borno State, is not the right way to go. He should have gone to Kaduna State. He should have gone to at least Katsina State. He should have gone to Owerri. He should have gone to Ebonyi State. At least 2 or 3 other states. Within the 2 days in Nigeria, he has access to private helicopter or private aircraft by the UN to take him to each of these states for 1 hour or 2 hours assessment, for him to know if actually the UN is doing much to secure or to protect the livelihood of common and ordinary people in Nigeria with the funds that are made available for this purpose in Nigeria, rather than going to Borno State, where the governor, I won't say anything obviously wrong about what Governor Zulum is doing in Borno State. He has done his best according to his capacity to ensure that things are done properly.
Gossin, let me put you on hold.
We have been made to know and seen in Madugri and the
Gossin. All right, Gossin, thanks a lot. I feel what you're saying, but Priscilla, let me quickly come back to you on this matter. In all, looking at the UN Secretary General's visit in whole, what does it mean for Nigeria on the international scale? Of course, the press so much desire and appreciation. Now you have just said that with the role Nigeria plays and who we are, we cannot be easily forgotten. But how much does this say about the international space in Nigeria, Priscilla? And moving forward.
Sorry, I didn't catch most of that. Can you try and repeat the first part
what I was trying to say is Guterres' visit to Nigeria, a symbol of the United Nations, as we've noticed that, what will be Nigeria's...
Okay, I think I just made out the last part.
Yes.
You know, you were mentioning the importance of Nigeria, if I'm right.
Yes.
To the world, is that correct?
Yes, to some extent, following this visit.
Forgive me.
Yes, to some extent, following this visit of the SecGen.
I mean, as I've said already, you know, Nigeria is we should not underplay our importance, and it's not just in Africa, but across the planet. And so, you know, as Azu has said already, he should have visited. It's not sufficient for him to come in and just sort of spend time as he did in one state. Don't forget that in January 2014, you know, the United Nations has another arm, which is the United Nations Industrial Organization. And UNIDO does work with countries that are not developed to be able to promote them from to developed countries, and with that they provide funding, they provide support and expertise and so on to be able to help that development. And they set up, in that particular department of the UN, set up the National Quality Infrastructural Project that was launched in 2014. Now this is an important area, an important aspect of their work, and it would have been great to see the Secretary General be able to address that and to find out, to tell us where the UN are at on this. You know, how much has Nigeria been able to meet their quota, what they were supposed to do, and if indeed, you know, there has been development in that arena, because it's all part of the promotion to go from least developed country to going to a developed country. Nigeria, sadly, is still on the list of the least developed countries at the UN. And so these are just some of the areas that they needed to look at. By the way, I think it's important to note that UNIDO itself has been running for over 50 years. And when you look at their track record of how many countries have they been able to promote from least developed country to developed countries, it's quite sad to see that they haven't had a lot of success in that area. So when these projects are launched, it is important that when we see the UN Secretary General come into a country, Nigeria, you know, where this was launched, he should have been looking at some of those projects, because right now it is under his watch, and it is important to see, you know, how well the UN are working with Nigeria to take Nigeria off that list of least developed countries and into the developed countries list.
Priscilla Nwipo, a broadcast journalist based in London, thank you for your time. Gossin, in 1 minute, please, in 1 minute,
thank you for having me.
What of advice you have for the Nigerian government? Guterres has promised more funding to fight terrorism. What words do you have for the Nigerian Nigerian government? What do you have to advise the Nigerian government on when this money from the UN comes into the country? Gossin.
I'm not sure if that is meant for me.
Yes, it's meant for you, Gossin. It's meant for you.
I think one of the most important things that the Nigerian government needs to do at this very moment with regards to the visit of the Secretary General to the United Nations is to begin to project itself as a country that is ready and willing to play a greater role in the international community, and to project itself as a nation that is ready to lead the continent in a very positive way and manner in terms of peace, peace resolutions, in terms of trade relations, in terms of cooperations, in terms of ensuring that Africa as a continent emerges as one of the key continents globally in this 21st century for global interaction, whereby we see the role that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is creating now in the food scarcity problem. Africa should have been the interventionist with regards to providing the alternative needs for the Western world for what they would have been getting from Russia or Ukraine. But then that is not the case, because the key countries such as Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, that are ought to be playing the major role in the continent of Africa are laid back because of the bad politics.
All right.
On even leadership in those countries. Okay. They are unable to coordinate the continent.
Thanks a lot.
And I think the visit of
Gossin, thank you so much for your time on the program today. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Gossin is a public affairs analyst based in London who was taking his time to join us. Also, Priscilla Wipo, also based in London, a journalist and a broadcaster. Thank you guys for your time here on the show. Very well appreciated. My sincere appreciation to the team that's made the program today possible. Thank you, and it's on that weekend. Start of trouble and enjoy your weekend. My name is Tunde Alabi. Bye for now.